We begin with Estonia, which has described an incursion by Russian fighter jets into its airspace as unprecedentedly brazen. It says 3 Russian military jets entered the NATO country's airspace without permission on Friday morning and stayed there for nearly 12 minutes. In a statement on X, a NATO spokesperson said, "This is yet another example of reckless Russian behaviour and NATO's ability to respond." The incident comes after the violation of Polish airspace by Russian drones and a further Russian drone incursion over Romanian territory close to the Ukrainian border. Well, in the last few hours, the Prime Minister of Estonia has said his country will request NATO Article 4 consultations over that violation of its airspace by the Russian jets. Under Article 4, member countries can bring any issue of concern, especially those related to security, to the North Atlantic Council. That's NATO's main political decision-making body. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk also invoked Article 4 consultations just last week. Well, we can speak now to the Estonian Defence Minister, Hanno Pevkur. Thank you very much, Mr. Pevkur, for joining us on BBC News today. What more can you tell us about the encounter over your airspace between those NATO jets and the Russian fighter jets? We're hearing reports in the Estonian media, for example, that the Russian jets had their transponders off, which would make them less visible to radar systems. Can you confirm that?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to the program. To be clarified, this is where these were MiG-31s, which means that they are bombers. But this is just a nuance. When we talk about the transponders, it's not important because on the radars they are visible, and we monitor them long before they entered into the proximity of the Estonian airspace. And then, of course, then when they already entered to Estonian airspace, then we scrambled them with the NATO response. And this is obvious what we need to do. And I'm very grateful for also for the Italian F-35s, who were the ones who went to scramble the Russian jets. And of course, in this situation, the only right thing to do is to push them out from the Estonian airspace.
So how quickly did those NATO jets respond as soon as the Russian planes came into your airspace?
We responded actually already before that when they entered. As I said, we were monitoring them very closely. And also the Finnish fighter jets or the Finnish jets were approaching them. And we were in a very close contact with our allies, not only with Finland, but also with Sweden. And we had the situation under the control. But yes, it is unprecedented that for 12 minutes the Russians were in our airspace. But there was a very good coordination among different countries.
Now, Estonia calling for urgent NATO talks, which we mentioned in the introduction. We've seen more flights by NATO jets in Polish airspace following the drone incursions there. What more would you like to see NATO do at this point?
Well, first of all, I believe that it is about the consultations and to bring all the allies to one page and to show what is it about. And of course, we also understand that Russians want to take away the focus from Ukraine and to put NATO countries to deal with their own issues. But to be honest, of course, we need to see also what we can do more together. And I'm glad to see that the SACEUR, together with the Secretary General, have announced the Eastern Sentry response. And of course, now we go and dig into the details to see what additionally we can do to prevent such violations of the airspace.
I note that in the last few days you've said that Russia understands only strength and that Estonia needs a defence framework in place for at least the next 10 years in order to build up its independent defence capabilities. Do you think this latest incident makes it more likely that your parliament will pass a 10-year budget plan for defence in the country?
Luckily, we just passed the next year budget and 4-year plan for defense, and we will go above 5% already next year. And for the next 4 years, we have a very clear plan in place, and we know what to do, but that doesn't mean that we cannot do more on the NATO level. And of course, we are waiting that all the NATO countries will go to 5% with the defense spendings, as we will do already next year. And of course, we clearly understand that when we take the eastern flank, then the eastern flank is our joint response line in a way that here in Estonia, we keep the front door closed. And this is exactly how we see that. And that's not only Estonia, that's also Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, to the Baltic, to the Black Sea, also Romania, Bulgaria. So we need to put more focus on the eastern flank, and really do hope that everybody understands that.
Keeping the front door closed, that's an interesting phrase. Is that more about deterrence, or is it more about defence? Because obviously a subtle difference there between those two positions.
You need to have both. You cannot have defense without a deterrence, and vice versa. So yes, we're very grateful, for instance, also for United Kingdom, because United Kingdom is our framework nation, and we have the allies here, not only from United Kingdom as a framework nation, but also from France and United States, and at the moment also Italians keeping our skies safe. But definitely we all understand that to have a very good deterrence, you need to show that you have the defense capabilities. And we promised very clearly to all the allies that we will fulfill the capability targets we agreed just in June this year. And we believe that everybody should do that as soon as possible. And this is why, of course, we applaud also to the decision to go to 5% with the defense spendings all around NATO.
On Wednesday of this week, Estonia announced that it was introducing a complete ban on imports of Russian liquefied natural gas from the 1st of January next year. I wonder what more you would like to see from President Trump at this point, because, you know, he said he will do more on sanctions if Europe does more on cutting off those purchases of Russian oil and gas.
Of course, we see clearly that the sanctions are working. So this is why we need to increase the pressure on Russia with the sanctions, and also at the same time to increase the military assistance to Ukraine. So these two measures will definitely help Ukraine to win the war, and to put Russia into the position that they need to come behind the negotiation table and to talk with Ukraine and to find the solution. Because definitely when we talk about different sanctions, then one is the first sanctions we have in place, different, like 18 packages already in Europe. But the other thing is also, can we put secondary sanctions? Because we still see that many, let's say, even the Shahed or Garand drones, there are components coming from the Western countries. So this is why I believe that we need to have better control what we are sending through different channels, through the third countries, and how the third countries are sending these components to Russia. So there is a lot to do. Also the shadow fleet, because shadow fleet is a huge problem here in the Baltic Sea and Finnish Gulf. Not only from the military point of view, that Russia can get more money from this, but also from an environmental point of view, because most of these vessels are very old and in a very bad condition.
But just coming back to the US position and the idea of sequencing, if President Trump is saying he'll do more, the US will do more on sanctions against Russia once European countries cut off those purchases of Russian oil and gas, do you think that lets President Putin, lets Russia off the hook in the meantime? Because, you know, not every country in Europe is in that position yet where it's saying that it's going to stop those purchases.
Of course, we would like to see that most of the European countries will not buy the gas or oil from Russia. But also we understand that at the end of the day, it's each country's decision. And I really hope that also the United States will do its own decisions based on the real situation on the battlefield and how we can help Ukraine. Because when you take also the Lindsey Graham bill regarding the sanctions, then it is a very good bill. It has many supporters on the Hill, and I really do hope that they can find quick solutions here, because this will really help Ukraine in their fight for their freedom.
So in terms of what the next 12, 24 hours, perhaps the week ahead looks like from Estonia, give us a sense of what you will be doing, what the government will be doing, what sort of conversations you hope to be having with NATO allies.
Well, we already started that. I've been in the close contact also with the UK Secretary of Defence, with the Finnish Minister, with our Baltic allies and Baltic friends. And we will continue that. Tomorrow, our Parliament Defence Committee and Foreign Affairs Committee will convene. So we have many actions in place. Of course, the military is working very intensively also on that. What we can have additionally in this a new option called the Eastern Sentry, because we all understand, as I said, that the eastern flank has to be secured, and we will work very intensively. And also we have already made some decisions locally here domestically what we can do regarding the drone attacks, regarding the defense capabilities against the drones, intercepted drones, also bringing home experience from the Ukrainian battlefield. So there are many things in the process, but still looking at the moment what we can do in NATO, then these consultations based on the Article 4 are much needed.
And who do you think, finally, if you would, who do you think that the key message was for, that was being delivered by Russia today? Was it for Estonia? Was it for Europe? Was it for President Trump?
Well, we've seen throughout the years that Russia doesn't accept or respect the international law. They've been violating our airspace for many times previously, and of course we see that now they started to also send drones to Poland. So of course we need to still wait for the official investigation. But when you have 20 drones on one territory, it's very difficult to believe that this was an accident. So it doesn't matter to whom the message was sent to. It is important what we do and how we react to that.
OK, Hanno Pevkur, Estonia's Defence Minister, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much.